Everything those atoms and molecules do, their orders, if you want to put it that way, are contained within these laws of physics, and they don't need any God beyond those laws of physics, because they don't appear to be doing anything beyond those laws of physics. So you can just delete God and just have the laws of physics, have the molecules, have the atoms obeying their laws, and just get rid of the whole God thing altogether, and you haven't lost anything.
That's basically like saying, let's delete all the code behind that computer game and just have the little characters in the game. The whole thing is hinged upon the laws. If you're just going to say the laws is all we need, you still have to question, just like you questioned everything else. Why didn't you question where the laws came from? So what is it you want to talk about today? God, you said?
Yeah. Because
Okay.
we can continue our previous discussion, I think.
Yeah, you'll have to remind me.
Yeah.
Because I remember speaking about the caste system. Don't know if you didn't speak much about God. Maybe we did.
Yeah, I think we started with that. And on the topic of God, I think a lot of people are very interested, because a lot of people are asking, even within my own family, there are people asking, why are we here?
Oh, they watch your videos?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
And what did they say?
They're asking, they like them. Interesting.
Okay. That's interesting. Good.
So, why are we here? What's the point of life?
Yeah.
What's the reason when you wake up in the morning to get through that day and try and achieve something with your day?
Yeah.
And we can talk about things like family is very important.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, that's not. They need something more, some underlying reason, and it's connected with God.
Yeah.
And you're coming from the Muslim perspective,
Islamic perspective.
yeah, Islamic perspective,
Yeah.
and you're quoting the Quran.
I quote the Quran, the Hadith,
Yes.
the consensus of the scholars. Yeah.
And some things you say a lot of people could agree with, and I mentioned that previously.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do is really pin it down, because as I'm sure you're aware, today there are a lot of people who are increasingly questioning belief in God. It's in decline generally, in all religious backgrounds,
So
and even governments.
You think belief in God is declining? I think it's the other way around. Because they have done recent surveys where they say the young people are now more interested in the topic of God, and they are investigating, and they are more believers among the young people than they were in the previous generation.
Yes, actually, you're right. Very the new generation, I think people in their 20s and younger, there is an increase.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, young people. Yeah.
But overall, it's still in decline, because the older ones are becoming a bit more skeptical.
It depends which geographical region you're talking about. If you talk about Scandinavia, I will agree with you. If you talk about America, Europe, I don't think so. Maybe Europe, amongst the older people, it might be declining a bit. Okay. But Americans definitely not. They got over 55% who are believers in God even today.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. So God is pretty important, because
and India definitely they believe in God.
Yes. Yeah.
which is a billion strong population.
Yeah, just for the record, I'm a British citizen.
Well, so am I.
Not an Indian citizen.
So am I.
But
if you're talking about if you're talking about the world,
yes,
then we have to include India in that, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you look at Asia, for example, I think there are more people who believe in God in Asia. And Asia itself you're talking about like more than 3/4 of the world already there.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So I think geographically speaking, I think more people believe in God.
Okay, yeah, I would agree. More people believe in God, but overall there may be a little bit of a decline. Not a very
in certain
decline.
areas, I agree. Like I said, the Scandinavians used to be predominantly Christians, but now they are, I think, more atheists there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, for example, here in London, we can see that we have Sunday opening hours laws, and as a result of this, very few people are going to church. Most of the churches in London, huge proportion of them have actually closed down.
No, they've become masjids.
Yes, some have.
Many of them.
Some have.
Yes, they have closed down, and
most of them have become shops. They become flats.
Some of them bars.
Bars even, yes. One became a nightclub.
Unfortunately.
Yes, I'm sure you remember that one, Limelight.
Yes.
And so basically, the issue is that people are feeling alienation. The levels of depression are higher today than they've ever been. Yes.
I think there are other things related.
Loneliness as well.
Yeah, maybe social media might be a factor.
Yes, social media addiction.
Yes.
Mobile phone addiction.
Zombie scrolling, as they call it.
Shouldn't be criticizing that though, because some people will probably use.
No, but there's, every technology has its,
Yes.
good advantages and disadvantages.
Yes.
And that has always been the case.
Yes.
But if it's unchecked, like the zombie scrolling that we see today, there are many countries now stepping away from digital learning,
Yes.
which they thought was like a positive thing to do like a decade ago.
Yes.
Why is that? Because they believe that books and having a pen and paper is better at retaining stuff rather
Yes.
than just scrolling. So you might have a beautiful presentation and all that, but then when it comes to retaining that knowledge, because people want information quick now and they
Yes.
get it.
Yes.
But that doesn't improve your ability to retain that information.
Yes.
But if you write something, then at least it helps you to retain
Yes.
part of that knowledge. So that's one of the things. But yeah, there are many factors, I think, for belief in God, for many other things like depression you mentioned, all of that. But I don't know, where do you stand in the belief of God? Because I certainly believe in God. I don't know about you.
Okay.
Do you believe in God?
Okay, so this is I think the very first debate we had was
Yeah.
about God.
Yeah.
And the reason why I was focusing on it is because I do have a bit of a background in education. I did actually was involved in training about 1,000 teachers. They've all gone out and they're now teachers.
What were you teaching?
I was a teacher trainer, and I was teaching trainee teachers to go out there and teach maths, English, and science.
Okay.
Yes. And it's certainly in the conclusion I drew from the feedback. We did surveys on children, what they thought about how they were being taught and what they were learning, and we detected that there was this problem with technology, and maybe we should go back to traditional teaching, and the children are a lot happier with that. But the problem is that we noticed that with children, a lot of it is about motivation of the teacher as well as the motivation of the child.
Yeah, of course.
And a lot of that, does boil down to a very basic question. Why are we here? Okay, I was born, my parents had me, and I was born, and so I'm alive. But what is the purpose of life itself? Why go through this struggle? And life, it is a struggle, because it's not a straightforward thing, especially when you're a child. You've got to wake up, there's this academic pressure as well, there's social pressures, and they get older, and they're teenagers and want to get a relationship, and there are all those pressures, and it's quite stressful being a child, if you remember that. And so the reason why I became interested in God, and I came from this teacher training perspective, is that I realized that why do these great religions exist? Whether it's Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and they're incredibly popular. Okay, they're in decline in terms of belief in God, and a church attendance is definitely in decline.
In certain areas.
But overall, they're still popular, and they'll probably still be around in 1,000 years' time.
And they're growing in popularity in certain areas, and they are declining in certain areas. So we need to be clear about that. So your basic question is, what is the purpose of our life or our existence? The age-old philosophical question which has been asked since before even schools were around, or the traditional schools were around.
Yes.
So this is a question that I think people do ask, both religious and non-religious, and it's a fair question, I would say. Yeah. So I think before I answer that question, my question to you is, do you yourself believe in God? So I know how to approach this. Because if you and I both believe in God, okay, then I know how to approach you. But if you don't, maybe I'll start with the basic things for a person who doesn't believe in God, and why we should believe in God.
Okay,
is that fair?
Best to just start from the basics, because in terms of a belief in God, I think I did briefly mention it, but we didn't really go into it. I was trying to get at the question, defining what God is.
Yeah.
So just assume that I don't know anything about the subject.
Okay.
And just start from scratch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, we know even from the scientific perspective that nothing cannot bring about something. This is a given. This is axiomatic. So anyone who claims that this entire universe, with all its complexities and all its different laws and so on, the laws of physics and everything, just came about one day by accident from nothing, that is unscientific. That is not even logical, and it certainly what many people will not accept as, okay, it just came from nothing. So they will either say that they don't know where all of this came from and what is the reason it came from, because obviously if they don't know where, they want to know the purpose for it. But you see, we as believers in God, and I mean most of the major religions today, when they believe in God, they know He's the one who has caused all of this existence we have today. And when God creates something, it has a purpose.
Yes.
In fact, everything that we know today, like even your shoestring, will have a purpose. Do you think we don't have a purpose?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on your side.
Yeah.
in
I haven't
that-
finished, by the way,
Okay. Go.
because I need to answer the question you asked about
Yes.
what is the purpose. So I'm coming to that. If everything's, even minute things, even insignificant things like your shoelace has purpose, then why don't we have purpose? And this is a question which has been asked through centuries by different people, different regions, and so on. Allah answers this question in the Quran. Allah says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. That is, Allah is saying that we have not created the jinn and the insan. Jinn is basically under the creation of God, which has this free will, and the insan, other than for the purpose of worship of God.
Okay.
But now we have to define what is worship, because some people will imagine that, oh, Muslims are only created to sit in the mosque all day and just worship Him. No, worship means obedience to God. So, for example, clearing some rubbish from the way, if it's obstructing the way, that is worship, because you're basically doing a good deed. Yeah.
Yes.
You're smiling to someone and bringing cheer in their life. That's worship as well. You feeding your neighbor, or if your neighbor goes to bed empty stomach and you don't care, then that is against Islam, because the Prophet ﷺ in his hadith says he's not one of us. He's not from the deen. This is something which we give importance to, because if everyone's nice to their neighbor, we'll have a really wonderful neighborhood, right?
Yes.
And if another neighborhood does the same, we'll have a beautiful world, I think. So this is important teachings like that. So basically, worship is like God knows what is best for us.
Yes.
And He has instructed us through scriptures in the past as well, as to what are the do's and the don'ts. You know,
Yes.
the Jews have their dietary laws and obviously the belief in God and so on. So do the Christians and so do the Muslims.
Yes.
So all of these do's and don'ts fall
Yes.
under obedience of God. So if we do what He has instructed us to do, that is obedience. If we don't, that means if He's told something is prohibited, for example, drinking alcohol, drugs, gambling, all these things in Islam, these are prohibited. So if you do those things which are prohibited, then that goes against the obedience of God.
Okay.
Okay, so your life has a meaning and a purpose, which is defined under jurisdiction, under the will of God, and because He's our Creator, He knows what is good for us and what is not. So if you look at all the haram things in Islam, for example, all the prohibited things, I mentioned some. Others are like fornication, adultery, telling lies, unjust killing of someone. All of these things, I think most people will agree with them that they are wrong.
Yes.
These are the vices which we should stay away from. And you'll find, other than the things which are haram, Allah says, like the Prophet ﷺ, these things are permitted, all the good things in your life. It's only the ones that goes against what will be considered as a peaceful nature or harmony within the society that Allah has mainly prohibited. If you look at it closely, look at all the harams and you'll realize this. So in short, it is basically abiding by what God has told you to live your life as. Because God just didn't create us. He's not like an absent father, like He created you and that's it. Because I think some deists believe this, that he just created the world and that's it. And it has its own mechanism and everything. But you see, morality is a very important part of the society. Yes, we live in a society and it has laws.
Yes.
And it has, knows what is moral, what is crime and what is not. So all these things are there within the society as well we live in. In order for your society to live harmoniously, for the citizens to live in harmony, they have to have laws.
Yes.
Similarly, our lives should have laws as well to govern us, to live a good life, basically. Yeah.
Yes.
So in a nutshell, that's the answer. Yeah.
Okay. So the three parts, I think, to the answer.
Yeah.
So first you were saying in terms of God,
Yeah.
that we have to believe in God because logically it doesn't make sense not to. Clearly something exists, the universe exists,
Yeah.
we exist, we're part of it.
Yeah.
And therefore you're left with the choice of saying it's just there for no reason, or it's there for a reason. And we covered this previously, that if your car doesn't start in the morning, and you call the mechanic and he says that there's no reason, you wouldn't accept that. You'd say there's a reason the car doesn't start, and you just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And then you get another mechanic, and then until you find
There's a
out
cause
what
and
the reason-
effect in
yeah,
everything.
cause and effect.
Yeah.
So if a universe exists, there's got to be a cause for it.
Yes.
Like a first cause.
Yes.
A great cause, or
The first cause is a good
first
one.
cause.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
The uncaused cause.
yeah, uncaused cause. Yeah, there's got to be an uncaused cause. The problem is that if we say that is a creator,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that is one
created?
attribute of his.
Yeah.
To create. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I was speaking to other Muslims here, and one of them, he was saying Allahu Akbar, and then he explained to me that it means Allah is greatest, or the greatest.
Yeah.
And I said, well, explain to me what Allah means to you, and he's explained that Allah means the creator.
No, Allah just
created.
Allah means God in Arabic.
Yeah. Yeah, he said that. Yes.
Yeah.
He said
Creator
that.
is one of his attributes. Al-Khaliq, we say in Arabic. So that is one of his many attributes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that for him was like the key attribute.
Yes.
He created all of this.
Yeah.
And something very similar to what you were saying, that there is a will of God, and that will is explained to us in a set of instructions. We should obey those instructions.
Yeah.
And then, so in answer to my question, what is the purpose of life? A lot of people wonder about this. You're saying that something caused what this universe is. That is a first cause. That first cause is, say, Allah. Allah means God.
Yeah.
And then Allah's will is expressed. You would argue in a book. Like
Yeah, so Allah didn't just create us, He created us and gave us the guidance as well at the same time. So it's not like an absent father who just creates and you fend for yourself.
Yes.
So the guidance is part of this,
Yes.
where we get the purpose from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that purpose is
Yeah.
following the will of God.
Yes.
And that will of God is expressed. One candidate for that is the Islamic tradition, and that is reflected in the Quran, Hadith,
Yeah.
and the Muslim community of scholars, religious scholars, and the guidance that they give.
Yeah.
Yes?
So you know the term Muslim, you know what it means?
My understanding that it comes from the root salam, which means to submit to Allah, something like this.
Yes. So one who submits to the will of one God, that is a Muslim. So we don't say Muslims started only with the time of Prophet Muhammad, peace and
Just move this quickly.
peace and
Yeah.
blessing be. Yeah, it's good to have it in front of you.
Yes. Yes, go on.
So we don't say Islam or Muslims
Yes.
started only with the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yes.
He was actually the last messenger, if you remember.
Yes.
Yes. So we believe the first prophet is Adam. So
Yes.
there was a series of prophets and messengers.
Yes.
And throughout this series of prophets and messengers, these prophets and messengers are actually chosen by God.
Yes.
Yes, so God chooses a particular individual from a community,
Yes.
and He says, now you are our representative on earth.
Yes.
So we believe all the prophets and messengers, all the way from Adam till Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon all of them, we believe they all were Muslims by the definition of one who submits to the will of the one true God.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So and that's good. that you
Just a
mentioned-
side
Yes, because
info, yeah.
a lot of non-Muslims aren't aware.
Yes, yes.
Of the fact that Muslims do highly respect all of the prophets.
Oh yeah, definitely. Not only respect, in fact we wouldn't be Muslims if we rejected them. So one of the 6 articles of faith is to believe in the prophets of God.
Yes.
Yes?
Okay.
And if we don't, for example, if I rejected Jesus, I wouldn't be a Muslim. This
Yes.
is a fundamental part of our iman.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
And-
which
and-
means belief, yeah.
Yes. And so that is praiseworthy. That involves a very inclusive and a very broad
Yeah.
interpretation.
And we believe that the prophets were not just sent in Arabia. In the Quran, Allah says He sent messengers to all nations, yeah, to warn them, and also obviously to give them the glad tidings. So if you warn them about if they are disobedient, and give them the glad tidings if they are obedient to God. And we
Yes.
believe all nations includes the entire planet.
Okay.
Okay, and we don't know. I mean, there are, like I said, we don't know exactly the number of prophets and messengers, but we know that there were many, because obviously there are many nations in the world, and we know that they all came with a message. At some point their message got corrupted, and then Allah would send another prophet or messenger following him.
Okay.
Yeah, so just some side information.
Yeah, so a very inclusive image, and there is some evidence in history as well that Islam was historically a very inclusive religion. Say the Abbasid Caliphate, and also even the Ottoman, I think, believed some parts, some periods. Obviously, there were some problems in some periods as well towards the end, but certainly it was very tolerant, and you had a lot of Christians within the Ottoman Caliphate.
They would actually let them govern.
Yes,
you know? They would say,
and in the Abbasid Caliphate, I think they were quite famous for being very tolerant. Half the population of Baghdad was non-Muslim.
So, at that time,
So there is a lot of evidence. It's very inclusive. It's very tolerant, and we're talking about belief in God. And okay, I will let you in on a little bit of my sort of hunch. I'm not an expert.
Okay.
But my guess would be that certainly when I'm looking at education, that when I studied a lot of schools, different techniques, different education systems.
Okay.
And what I personally found is where they included religion in the schooling,
in the syllabus,
the children tended to do better.
Oh, really?
Tend to be more motivated, tend to be happier. They just tended to do better academically. Not always.
Because they were grounded?
There's exceptions to every rule. It's not always true. But on the whole, there is this link. Certainly, I was studying British schooling, so I was looking at Christian schools versus non-Christian schools, secular schools, and the Christian schools were found to do much better academically than the non-Christian. Certainly within Britain, there's very strong evidence for it.
Interesting.
So
what do you think was the reason for that?
Well, I went into the history of Christianity. I was trying to figure out why are these schools so good. Maybe there's things I can incorporate into the teacher training. And I didn't really get it to where I wanted to be. What I introduced in the teacher training was that we needed to explain why they should learn anything and why they should even turn up to school in the first place.
Okay.
And what we found is that many of the children, no one has ever done that with them. So it's taken for granted. There's a law, you have to go to school, you turn up, okay, that's it. Why you should even be there, no one ever explains in your childhood.
Well, your mommy and daddy tells you so.
Yes. Mom and dad said you should do that.
That's the most basic
but
thing.
A lot of the children, especially when they get to the age of around 11, 12, they're wondering, what is the purpose of all of this? There's a lot of hard work involved. There's a lot of distractions today. We know what those distractions are. You can play your favorite video game. You can be obviously chatting with your friends on Snapchat. All of these sorts of things, which are highly enjoyable for most kids. And alternatively, you could be having your head buried in that history book or some other book and be studying that. And so why should you do the thing that you enjoy less?
Yeah, interesting question.
Yes?
Yeah.
So, I had to find an explanation for that because if the kids are asking these questions, and it was our job to make sure that their kids did well, and so therefore, if the teacher could come up with an answer, the children would do a lot better. And the answer that we came up with was, well, that particular topic you're learning, where might you use it later on when you get a job or otherwise? In terms of the school, the reason why the school is there is the reason why a book isn't enough. Yep. Why don't we just give everyone the books in September? Okay, go home. We'll see you in June. We'll see you at the exam.
Good luck with that.
Why do we need the school? And obviously, it's about motivation. Everyone knows the answer.
I think it's about discipline as well. Because if you're doing everything by yourself, obviously you're not motivated. Number one.
Yes.
But you lack the discipline because there's no one to guard you. How much time you have to spend on reading or on entertainment and so on.
Yes.
Whereas the school gives you that framework to work under where you have to go and you have to study.
Yes.
So everyone from from nursery all the way to secondary school more or less have the same kind of education. But you're right. I think it needs to be looked into because I think the people in Scandinavia did find out that that shouldn't be the way. And also the Japanese, I think, they found out that you have to introduce some sort of vocation along with the studies. Yeah, because when many people, when they graduate, even like A levels or high school, they don't know much about economics at all. How to deal with finance, how to deal with the money. They have no clue whatsoever.
Yes.
Because they barely studied that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, the thing, areas where school is lacking at the moment is areas like law. Religion is taught a little bit, and maybe some of it is very good summaries of them.
Yeah.
And economics, finance. A lot of us, we don't have this knowledge when
True,
we leave
yeah.
school.
Yeah.
So coming back to the problem. The problem is that there's a bit of a decline, and it's
Sorry,
reflected
how do we get back to school? I thought we were talking about God.
School is important because I think childhood is the most important stage of life because it's the first stage.
It is, yes.
And if we get that right, we get
Yeah.
the whole of life right. And if we get it wrong, then often life can go wrong in adult life.
Yeah.
And it's harder to correct things.
That's true.
So if we get the motivation right there, then it reflects very well on everything.
Yeah. Can I just mention one thing? With regards to education, most Muslims, including mine, the parents don't start with primary school. They go with teaching the Quran
Yes.
in the schools. We call madrasa. Madrasa the term just means school in Arabic.
Yes.
And this is where they acquire the knowledge of reading the Quran because
Yes.
majority of the Muslims are non-Arabs. I would say 80%. Only even less than 20% are actually Arabs.
Right.
So it's not their first language. So they have to study
Arabic.
from the alphabet
Yes.
and move on to reading the Quran. So at this stage, the focus is mainly on reading the Quran rather than understanding it and going into the commentary and so on because they're very young children, yeah?
Yes.
So yeah, I think this is quite important. Education amongst the Muslims starts with the Quran.
Yes.
And at the same time, they also send them to school. So in the morning, the children go to the madrasa in the masjid where they study the Quran. The time for the school is like maybe 10 o'clock or something. They go to school there at that time. It depends. In different countries, they have different times, isn't it, for schools and so on.
Yes.
So sometimes they do it in the evening. Like
Okay.
obviously when you start like 8 o'clock, you're not going to wake up the kid like really early to teach them. So they start their madrasa in the evening after the school. Yeah.
All right.
But what I'm trying to say is the emphasis on teaching the Quran from a very early age. And
Yes.
that's the reason today, the Quran is the only book which has been memorized from cover to cover by children, by young people, by older people, both men and women. We talk about something in the region of like maybe 17, 18 million people around the world memorize the entire Quran.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very, very impressive. And you also have here with the Christians, I would say, a lot of them here have also memorized the gospel.
Yeah, certain passages. But
Yes.
if you ask if any bishop or even the Pope or any major religious figures or even the lay people, have you memorized a single book from the Bible? The answer will almost always be no.
Yes.
Because this is not for them, that is not the priority.
Yes.
Whereas in Islam, not only for preservation, but the Quran itself says Allah has made it easy to remember.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a tradition where you have a God,
Yeah.
Allah. That is the only God.
Yes.
Yes. That's the creator.
Yeah.
One of the attributes is the creator.
Yes.
And then you go from that to a succession of prophets.
Yes.
Final prophet Muhammad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Peace be
Upon him. Yeah.
And then you have
We say peace be upon all of them.
peace be upon all of them.
Yes, all the prophets.
And and then you have the books,
Yeah.
the Quran, the Hadith.
Yes.
Yes.
And then
And the Sunnah.
no, the Hadith.
And
Basically,
the
the Sunnah is recorded in the Hadith. So
Yes.
it's basically the actions of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, and it's recorded in the Hadith.
Yes.
And we also have the consensus of the scholars.
Yes.
So there are many things in the Quran and the Hadith which might not be stated explicitly. So obviously the scholars, they interpret it within the framework of the Sharia.
Yes.
And this is where the consensus of the scholars come in as well. It's very important. Yeah.
Okay. So what we want is a general, and let's not think really about a specific group of the
overall,
children,
yeah.
But all of them.
Yes.
And we just want what's best for them.
Yeah.
Yes.
True.
So and if we think about what we want is best for them, we want to give them some meaning and purpose to why they're alive. There is this work that has to be done. Life is a struggle. There's a workload to it, and we want to motivate them at an early age to make the sacrifices for the future, because those sacrifices are doing things maybe you don't want to do as much, but in the long run you'll be better off and society will be better off. And
no pain, no gain.
Yeah, no pain, no gain.
Yeah.
Yep. And that is a very key thing today. That's a very topical thing today.
It's always been, I think.
Because if you think about the problems such as drug addiction, as well as social media addiction and other things like that, it's a very big problem. And there's problems that are maybe big problems coming also in the future as well. Resource problems.
Yeah.
And we can see that right now, things like inflation, things like this. So, for some reason, people are less satisfied today than they were in the past with the traditions that we have. So, I have even in my own family, maybe some sophisticated, maybe a bit sophisticated nephews and things like that, will asking, very detailed questions about, well, okay, if God exists, how did God create this universe? How did he actually do that? Right now I'm standing on the Earth. Yep. This Earth is a planet, so much mass. How did God create this Earth? Over there's the sun. We need the sun to stay alive because it provides the energy to grow all the food. How did God create that sun? I mean, in school I'm learning physics or something within science. And in science they're saying, well, the sun is formed from dust clouds. These dust clouds have contracted under gravity. Gravity has created the Earth. Gravity has created the sun. And the energy from the sun, well, that's being caused by fusion energy. There's these nuclei fusing together, the hydrogen nuclei, and they're forming helium. And that's what this energy is, the sunlight that grows the food that I eat to stay alive. So far in everything I've said, I haven't mentioned God once. So this is a real conversation I had with a member of my own family. And what he then said was, well, the universe is a whole bunch of atoms and molecules, and they're all following these, they are following laws of physics. Yes.
That's a key point.
Yeah, that is a key point. Obviously, you're going to bring that in.
I brought it up at the very beginning, if you remember.
Yeah. And, but the point is, those everything those atoms and molecules do, their orders, if you want to put it that way, are contained within these laws of physics, and they don't need any God beyond those laws of physics, because they don't appear to be doing anything beyond those laws of physics. So you can just delete God and just have the laws of physics, have the molecules, have the atoms obeying their laws, and just get rid of the whole God thing altogether, and you haven't lost anything.
That's basically like saying, let's delete all the code behind that computer game and just have the little characters in the game. The whole thing is hinged upon the laws. If you're just going to say the laws is all we need, you still have to question, just like you questioned everything else. Why didn't you question where the laws came from? Because the universe is contingent. It's not autonomous, that it does everything by itself. Those laws were not created by the universe. It is because of the laws the universe operates as it is. But the laws didn't just appear from somewhere. One of the examples I give is about the DNA. The DNA everyone knows today, it is a genetic code. Okay? The question you need to ask your nephews or whoever is asking these questions, and by the way, it's a good question. I'm not saying it's something that it comes from a genuine place. Ask them, for every code, should you have a coder, or does the code write itself?
It's a good question.
Yeah, even AI, where they have certain codes, they're built in the code to write or correct itself. But that still has a code to do that. You see, that's why I talked about if anyone wants to say that the universe came from nothing, they know they cannot use that argument because that's unscientific, it's irrational, and it's something that people will just say it out of emotion if they were going to say it. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So we need a creator to not only create the universe, but to actually make sure the universe is operating as we see today. The galaxies got thousands and millions of suns in them. We got hundreds and thousands of galaxies. Can you imagine the size of the universe?
Yes.
And that universe is only maybe a fraction of what we can see today or what we know about.
Yes.
Yeah. Before the James Webb telescope, we had the Hubble telescope. We can see up to a certain part of the universe.
Yes.
Now with the James Webb, we can see all the way back then.
There's problems for the Big Bang Theory you're probably aware of as a result of that. Well, we can go
Yeah, yeah.
into
So
that
the Big Bang
another day.
theory is like, let's say the cosmologists, for them, that is the most accepted model. Yeah, but
Was,
still,
until the James Webb telescope was,
yes.
began to.
So they can have these new models come in, which improves upon the previous one, perhaps. But you see, one thing science cannot explain is where did the universe originate from?
Right.
This
yes.
is one. You know why? Because without space and time, you're handicapped in science. Everything's hinged upon that. Even if you want to talk about energy, you have to bring that into the equation.
You have to bring more
Space and time.
Space and time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
It is very, very important factor. And
Yes.
because the scientists cannot see beyond that, because for them space and time will start with, let's say they believed in the Big Bang from that time, because they believe that is like when the universe originated, something like 3.8 billion years ago. So they have to factor in space and time in order to formulate any equation or any sort of measurements or calculations they want to do in order to reach an understanding of how anything operates in the universe.
Yes.
Without that, they're handicapped. So many people use science to understand God. And this is exactly what your nephews are trying to do as well. When you're using a tool which is limited, like science, one thing science cannot answer is things about the immaterial world. And we know we have both material and immaterial within the universe. In fact, even within ourselves. Yeah, the term consciousness that we talk about, you cannot see it with empirical evidence. You cannot fathom consciousness with any empirical evidence. No matter how sophisticated their equipments, their technology gets, this is something which is beyond the scope of science.
Okay.
Science deals with the naturalistic world, energy, matter, those kind of things.
Yes.
If it is not that, then it's beyond the scope of science. It is basically like me giving you a metal detector and telling you, go find me some plastic.
Okay.
Wrong tool for the wrong,
Yes.
for this
So
purpose.
yeah, right tool for the right job.
Yeah, so we
yes.
don't believe God is material.
Okay.
So if you're going to
So-
use science as a tool to find God, then that's the wrong tool you're using. Because it has its limitations, obviously.
Yes. So we have some distinctions.
Yeah,
We have the distinctions between the material and the non-material.
yes, absolutely.
And we have the distinction between, from what you said, I was listening carefully, universe and creator.
Yeah.
It's two separate things.
Yeah.
So there's a universe
There's
here.
a distinct distinction between the creator and the creation. So we
Yes.
believe everything other than the
distinct.
creator is a creation
Okay.
from the Islamic perspective.
Okay.
So remember, Allah is the only God,
Yes.
okay, and His attributes are many. One of them happens to be the
creator.
creator, but everything else is a creation besides Allah.
Okay.
That includes the angels, that includes Prophet Muhammad, that includes all the prophets and messengers,
Yes.
the earth, the galaxies, all of that, the universe
Yes.
itself, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is where my nephew said was coming in.
Yeah.
The creator component, that a significant scope of creation was actually physical material processes that is giving us an end result
Yeah.
that is very close to what we're seeing. And the only thing missing, and there are some things missing, which everyone agrees, which is where do the laws of physics themselves come from? And where does the space, time, and energy come from in the first place?
Yeah.
That's not explained by physics.
Yeah.
Yep. So-
These are axiomatic things.
yeah, this
which,
was the relevance of the whole Big
Yeah.
Bang thing is that the Big Bang theory,
yeah.
Stephen Hawking's, before Stephen Hawking's, there's no mathematics for it. And there was a claim that he had developed some mathematics for it. However, on further examination, there is actually no mathematics provided by Stephen Hawking as to a Big Bang. It's not explained by him. And to this day, in 2026, there is no mathematics. So what Stephen Hawking assumed, he assumed it was axiomatically true there was a Big Bang. And then if it was true, what would be the later stages of it? And the mathematics he actually provided via general relativity is extremely vague, and it's actually an inference that's being made about an expansion metric.
Yeah.
So and these are what are called tensor equations, that are being used in general relativity, and they're not working. They don't generate solutions. They're partial differential equations. And if you look at this up on any encyclopedia, YouTube videos, some of them get millions of views, by the way. There are standing prizes of millions of dollars because these partial differential equations, they're not very good. General relativity was supposed to be a temporary equation when it was developed in the 1920s, and all the world's newspapers were all writing to Albert Einstein saying, when are you going to come up with a better one? When are you going to do? And he said, I'm working on it. Give me a month, give me 2 months. Well, 100 years later, there's no successor theory. So we're stuck with a very broken general relativity that doesn't work. You can't generate any solutions with it. And one of the solutions you can't generate with it is a Big Bang. It's not capable of doing that.
Yeah, but the scientists themselves don't say that this is definitive. So many of the things from the past are speculative. Yeah, and these are hypotheses. These are they become theories once it's agreed upon by obviously a peer review and so on. And that's when it rises to the stage of theory.
This is where the problem is.
Yeah.
The peer review on Stephen Hawking's is that he has not provided any explanation for how a Big Bang actually occurs. There's no mathematics.
But he wasn't the pioneer for bringing the Big Bang theory, was he?
No, he wasn't. It was actually done at the University of Louvain.
Yeah.
There was a guy, a very famous guy there, and it was Arthur Eddington. And Arthur Eddington, I believe, is the guy with the telescopes, trained on the universe, and he discovered the stars with redshift.
Yeah, the redshift.
So if you have an ambulance coming towards you, it's high pitched.
Yeah.
If it's moving away from you, it's low pitched.
Yeah.
So the pitch drops.
Yeah.
So from that you assume something's moving away from you. And when the light also redshifts, you assume it's moving away from you.
Yeah.
So Arthur Eddington,
the background radiation.
that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
Background radiation. But if that came in the 1960s.
Yeah, later on. Yeah.
So just the original thing was this Arthur Eddington telescopes looking at these certain stars that are standard candles, and some of them were showing redshift. From that, you'd assume they're further away, and because the light is being redshifted, that means they're moving away. There's a problem with that, very big problem with that.
But they did come to the conclusion that the universe is expanding, because before there was a static universe model. Do you remember, like way back? And then they updated their information with the knowledge that they had, that the universe is expanding at a very fast rate.
This is the exact point that we're on.
Yeah.
This exact point.
This was one of the reasons they realized it is expanding.
So the issue is, Arthur Eddington, when he saw the redshift, didn't say that the universe was expanding, because when you hear the ambulance, you hear the pitch go down and it gets lower. The space isn't expanding. The ambulance is just moving away from it, and so that doesn't. So from that, you can't say the space is expanding between you and the
No, I think they were talking about the distance of the stars from one another, not the noise. So when you see the stars are not in the same location, they have moved. And that's how they discovered that at one point, the entire universe must have been compressed and not expanding like it is today.
So the issue, this is the issue, that Arthur Eddington initially said that the reason why the light was redshifting from these standard candles that were further away is because the light was tired. Light loses energy with distance. And there is experimental physics that proves that this is true.
No, but when you say loses light with distance, so then he is basically saying that it is moving.
No.
So what do you mean?
These are two conflicting hypotheses.
Okay. So how is it losing light? Because it's moving away, right?
One explanation is that the ambulance is moving away from you.
Yeah. That is noise. That's very different. So we are talking about the light that is emitted by the stars.
Light that's emitted by these stars, which is agreed to be redshifting. The redshift is being caused by the light itself losing energy.
How is that?
So energy equals h multiplied by frequency. So h is Planck's constant.
No, I'm saying when you say the light is losing energy, are you talking about because they're moving away, Is that the reason?
The thing is,
Or is it something else?
all we know is there's a telescope.
Yeah.
There's a star. It is redshifted. We all agree it's redshifted.
No, but they know the reason why.
No, we don't know the reason why.
Okay.
We don't know because
You said that it's because it's losing light. So I thought that was the reason.
Yeah, we can agree that when it gets into the telescope, that light does have lower energy, and it has lost energy because redshifting literally means via, a Nobel Prize winning E equals HF. I think it is Max Planck and Albert Einstein who are the actual guys who've done that conclusion.
I thought this was more or less
so
a consensus among the scholars, the cosmologists, that the universe is not just expanding, but expanding at a very fast rate.
This is where all the problems are coming in. So
but anyway, I think we're sidetracking. So maybe let's come back to the question about why somebody would not believe in a God.
Okay, so the point that the relevance of the Big Bang is that there is no Big Bang theory. It doesn't exist.
Even without that,
general relativity.
Look, whichever model they accept as being for the explanation of the universe, that's fine. The question still remains: where did the universe come from? Where did its laws come from? That is a key question we need to answer here.
Yes, we do. Yeah. And that is the problem. That this is an open question and this is an unanswered question.
Yeah.
And we've unfortunately possibly wasted a lot of time on a hypothesis that was, dead in the water. Big Bang theory.
Oh, by the way, hypothesis is before the theory. So Big Bang was actually in fact, it's the most accepted cosmological model even today. I don't know what is the new model you're talking about, because as far as I know, the Big Bang is still pretty much the most accepted, widely accepted.
It's not,
there are a few people who actually reject it, like I think Roger Penrose is one of them.
Roger Penrose and Stephen Hawking are the two guys who pushed it in the first place.
Pushed the Big Bang?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the opposite with Roger Penrose.
So I know Roger Penrose has got his own. By the way, this is again a hypothesis from Roger Penrose. He talked about a universe being eternal because of the cyclic universe in terms of I think he talked about a Big Bang and a Big Crunch or something like that. And this is an old model which he's just saying is a possibility, but it's still a hypothesis and not reached the level of an actual theory.
Yes, so there's a bit of confusion. When you put a theory forward, the theory is usually expressed as a hypothesis. And
initially, yes.
Yeah, and then when it ceases to be a theory is when it becomes a fact.
Well, I wouldn't call it a fact. I would say, let's say this is...
So laws of thermodynamics are not a theory.
Yeah, no, let's say that is the best information we have so far.
Yeah.
Okay, so a theory has to be disproven in order for it to lose its importance, not proven. Yeah. So once they have disproven it, then it's been debunked now. So we have to look for something else.
So the relevance.
Oh, it's always good. Alhamdulillah, barakallah feek. Oh, is it? MashaAllah. Sorry, I didn't realize that. Okay.
So we have creator and we have the created. The problem is, in terms of explaining the created from the creator, the Big Bang theory is gone. It doesn't exist because the only equation that you've got is general relativity. General relativity is a partial differential equation system that doesn't generate solutions.
Okay. So what is the alternative theory you think that's been accepted instead of the Big Bang? Because I still think it's the most accepted model of the universe, amongst the cosmologists of the universe. But you're saying there's a new theory or something. Okay, I don't know which one you're referring to. So maybe if you can just
as you're aware,
highlight that.
So the James Webb Telescope was launched, I believe it's 2024.
Yeah.
All of the footage has been coming in from that, and it directly contradicts the Big Bang theory to the extent that a large number of professors of astronomy and astrophysics have publicly announced on their social media that they've wasted their lives because the theory is completely false.
So what's a new theory?
There isn't one.
Hold on.
So what you've had is you've got maybe 70 years wasted on a theory that wasn't true.
Sorry, I just had a missed call. I'm just checking. Yeah. Yeah, go on, carry on.
and you've basically now got a void, an empty space. You have to go through your encyclopedias.
So you're saying they
rip
haven't
out
got
the
a...
pages on the Big Bang,
Yeah.
throw them in the bin, and
Okay.
now there's just no explanation.
Yeah.
Before that, there was a steady state theory. Because of all the funding went into the Big Bang, there's been very little work on the steady state theory for 70 plus years, and now we have to go back to the steady state theory, and we need to start looking at it again.
It can't be steady state because I still haven't seen an evidence that the universe is not expanding.
Okay, so I'll mention some facts.
Yeah.
Let's stick to facts. Every lab experiment ever done in the last 70 years has shown there to be no expansion of space whatsoever. So you can get mirrors, you can fire light between mirrors, and there will be effects going all the way back to the Michelson-Morley experiment of around 1886. There will be effects which will be triggered if space is expanding. Every lab experiment ever done in the last 70 years, because they've all been checking is space expanding or not, they've all produced a negative result.
Not the space, the universe expanding.
Space.
Yeah.
Space itself is not expanding according to every lab experiment ever done in the last 70 years.
Well, the fact that they had evidence using redshift, using
With the redshift,
the background radiation and so
we
on.
just agreed that redshift means the light photons are redshifting down, which by definition means their level of energy is decreasing. Energy equals E equals HF. The frequency is dropping. As the frequency drops, the energy drops.
So why is the energy dropping?
That doesn't prove the
Okay.
space.
I mean, look, I'm not an expert in this field. What I'm saying is that so far the Big Bang was the most accepted model amongst the cosmologists. If there is no alternative, then let's reserve judgment for that. But I still want to know.
It's now open.
Yeah, I still want to know, like,
So
where are we going with this in terms
okay, this
of?
is where we're going.
Yeah.
So okay, it's bad enough that we've got, obviously now we've got to explain, how did God create?
Oh, the how question. So we don't ask the how. We know God created because He told us so in the Quran. This sounds circular, I know, but what is the alternative? Most of the people we asked, they will say, I don't know.
I mean, I've met Muslims. I've met people who are very high up. I attended the LSC, and I had friends who are very high up in Muslim countries.
High up in what sense?
I mean, a very good friend of mine's, the father was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Yep. In this country.
Yeah. By the way, Chief Justice doesn't mean he's a scholar in terms of everything within Islam.
Okay,
so there's a difference between being a Chief Justice. You can be a judge, that's fine.
An official Islamic
Yeah,
state.
so in judicial things he might be an expert,
Yes.
but that doesn't make him an expert in other things.
I
So
agree.
we have to be careful about what you mean by high up, because as a Muslim, I believe that everything we see around, it has a cause.
Yes.
Look in the universe, anywhere. Okay, it doesn't matter which model you actually accept or reject. If you look, there is a cause and effect. The universe itself didn't exist at one time. So we know that it had a beginning. And anything that has a beginning must have a cause.
Yeah, but you're stating these as facts. You just said, we know at one time the universe did not exist. How do we know that?
Well, I think, like I said, I was going based on the Big Bang theory, and like I said, it's still, as far as I know, the most accepted model, and it hasn't been debunked to make it back into a hypothesis. It still remains a theory, and not only just a theory, but it most accepted. But even if you look at the laws within the universe itself, okay, one of the law of thermodynamics is entropy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Entropy is S. Let me just remember. S equals the log of W.
Yeah.
S equals the log of W. Yeah.
Okay. So entropy. If you know what is entropy.
Sorry. S equals the log of the energy over the temperature.
Yeah. So what do you understand?
S equals the log of the energy over the temperature.
If you were to explain to a
lay
layperson, how would you explain entropy to them?
Okay, so the laws of thermodynamics are essentially laws that were developed, literally means the laws of heat engines. So thermo means heat,
Yeah.
and dynamics means movement. So this means the movement of heat,
Yeah.
and specifically these equations were developed for describing heat engines.
Yeah.
And there was a very important equation for this.
Mm-hmm.
Can I remember the equation? The energy
Yeah.
equals the total energy equals the internal energy plus the work, or minus the work. Actually, is the most. You can use it either plus or minus the work. The most popular equation is minus the work, and that's because
I'm sure you're not explaining to a layperson.
Okay, so
Basically,
work is the ability to move things.
Yeah.
Internal energy is what you get when you heat something up and it builds up a temperature.
Yeah.
So if you imagine a heat engine is basically a steam engine, and this is what this was specifically about steam engines, these laws of thermodynamics. They're really the laws of steam engines.
No, but we had entropy even before the engines were invented. So we had entropy all the way going back to the beginning of the universe, if you want to put it that way. So entropy is with time, entropy actually increases. Yeah.
That is where
Imagine a top. If you spin a top, yeah, when the entropy it increases and then goes to a point where it's basically where the top comes to a stop.
Yes.
So you see, everything that is in the universe, if it's moving, the entropy reduces it to zero at some point because of that. And that's the reason we believe that entropy itself wouldn't allow a universe which is eternal because of entropy. And the entropy is the reason many of the people have rejected Penrose's idea of this universe being eternal as well. And there's no evidence for this.
Yeah, so Roger Penrose has changed his opinions. I believe he deserves great praise for that. And also Stephen Hawking deserves...
scientists are, when they have evidence, they do change their mind.
They deserve great praise for that,
Yeah.
because Stephen Hawking came out and publicly said I was wrong. And Roger Penrose has come out.
What was Hawkins wrong about?
He actually didn't explain exactly what he was wrong about, but he said that he'd made mistakes, and that there was some publicity to some email exchanges between him.
I think
and
he
an
was
Australian.
he was wrong about the black hole, if I remember correctly, because he said anything that goes in will never come out. But then later on, they found out the black hole has an exit as well, not just an entrance.
No, whi's the one who's saying.
Yeah,
he's
he
claiming
corrected himself. That's what I'm saying.
That the energy evaporates out of a black hole, which basically by definition should be impossible, because the gravity of the black hole supposed to prevent that.
Yeah.
So he's contradicting himself. But in any case, Stephen Hawking came out and publicly said that he'd made mistakes. There was a Hollywood film made about him, and in that they basically put into the script of the film that maybe he did make some mistakes.
Well,
So-
he's a human being at the end of the day, you know.
And the thing is,
yeah.
you've got to be allowed to make mistakes.
Yeah.
You've got to be allowed to think of ideas, speculate about them, and make mistakes. Because if no one's willing to do that, we're never going to make any progress.
So anyway,
So-
I'm using entropy as an example
And let's
to show
focus
you.
on the entropy. So, what's gone wrong is that a lot of people have gone and studied physics,
Yeah.
and they've learned about these things called laws of thermodynamics, and there are television program makers who have audience participation worries, and they want to try and explain the big questions such as why does the universe exist and how did it come to exist, and they know about these laws of thermodynamics, not universal laws of the universe. They're just laws of heat engines.
No.
So they've got-
Entropy applies not just to the heat engines.
No.
It applies everywhere.
No.
Yes. I mean, you look at anything that basically is there will be a stage where it comes to a halt, it comes to a stop, it comes to an end. And this is what entropy is. Because when I asked you to define entropy to a layperson, you were unable to do that.
No, you didn't ask me. You asked me to define...
To a layperson.
You were asking a different question.
No, I asked about entropy.
Okay, I'll
specifically.
define it for you.
Yeah, go on.
Okay.
To a layperson though.
So, entropy... so we just talked about the energy work equation.
Yeah.
And we said that means the total energy is the internal energy minus the work. So I explained that one, and that was about the steam engine. The steam engine is moving a piston with steam, and that energy in the steam is coming from you burning the coal to heat up the water. It boils, generates steam, and then the steam pushes the piston, and then you use that to drive a train.
Yeah.
Yes? A steam engine. So that is basically what the laws of thermodynamics
So what happens
are.
to energy
So then you have
within
one guy, Clausius is the guy who came up with this, and then you've got another guy called Boltzmann, and I believe his name was Ludwig Boltzmann. Boltzmann came along in the late 19th century, and Boltzmann is the one who, he didn't develop these equations, but he interpreted them. And he wanted to explain what entropy is. The idea of entropy was getting a lot of criticism from physicists, and the so-called laws of thermodynamics were getting a lot of criticism from physicists who said this does not look right at all. This doesn't. What goes on in a heat engine is completely different from what goes on in the universe, and the laws of physics that apply there are not universal.
So what happens to entropy
there was
within
an
the
argument
universe?
going on.
In the universe, what happens?
I'm coming to this. So basically what Boltzmann tried to do, he said, yeah, we've got a very serious problem there. So he came up with a statistical theory, and what he basically said was, well, there's different ways that things can be. So, for example, you can have a box, and in the box you release, in a vacuum, and you release some gas on one side of the box. All the gas is on the side you released it from, and then it spreads through the box. And why does that happen? Because when it's spread through the box, that's more probable. There's more ways it can be like that than when it's concentrated in a corner of the box. And this is his microstates, macrostates theory that he linked to the theory of entropy. And then what these TV presenters have then all gone on to do is they've taken that and they've tried to say this is some kind of universal physics, which is definitely not.
It is, because I'm asking what happens to energy in a closed system. You see, entropy basically, it tells you that entropy increases and whatever energy is that disperses. And this is from the scientific journals that I'm looking at today.
I know about those scientific journals.
So I don't know, what are you quoting? Are you quoting any academic work, or did somebody explain the...
Like I said.
Because you're saying it only applies to some...
I'll quote for you, forget who you got there.
Why?
I'll quote for you Richard Feynman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of him.
Yeah.
Richard Feynman, no one knows what energy is. So if Richard Feynman, the Nobel Prize winner, who produced what many believe to be the best lectures on physics that we have to this day, if he says nobody knows what energy is, and entropy is a property of energy, and we don't even know what energy is, how can you have a universal law of physics to say anything?
Well, you can't have E is equal to mc squared then. You will have to question everything that has energy within the equation.
Physicists do that. They are doing.
So I'll tell you what. Let's not go into, because here it just says entropy is a scientific concept that measures the level of disorder, randomness, or energy dispersal in a closed system. And that is what I have always believed to be what entropy is. And that's the reason I'm saying, if you look at the universe itself, look every aspect of the universe, it's dependent on something else. And that's the reason I'm saying the universe itself is contingent. It cannot be autonomous.
If there is, this is what the purpose why I'm discussing with you.
Yeah.
In universities, a lot of things are taught, and they're taught with a sort of master to student style. And the problem is that nobody puts their hands up, because they're usually teenagers, and says to the professor, you are wrong. What you're saying does not make sense. You've got to change it. I attended the LSE, it's one of the top universities in Britain. Now,
in economics.
Economics and philosophy.
Yeah.
And in the philosophy, I attended scientific method classes and the philosophy of science classes as well. And so we discuss a lot about science in those classes, and then I went on to study a lot of physics, which is why I'm going into so much detail on the physics.
Are there any scientists, are there any major scientists who say that entropy doesn't apply to the universe? Can you name any?
Let me point out what the problem is.
Yeah, you can always say no.
Yeah, so...
if you don't know, that's fine.
So, with entropy.
Yeah. Because I haven't come across any...
You're saying...
Because you're talking about universities, lectures. I'm talking about the academics within the scientific field.
Focus.
No, but the academics within the scientific field. I've never heard any scientists including
about what you've heard from other
Roger,
people.
including
It's you and
Roger
me.
Penrose, who says that.
This
And
is,
no, no,
this
but
is you, Hashim. This is you and
no, but you
and
brought
Bill.
up academia.
Yes.
You said they don't question. The
Yes.
scientific academics, the scientists within the academia do question these things, and that's the reason we have these different theories, which have been updated and upgraded at different times because of the questioning.
Yes.
All right. So if you can bring me a single scientist who says entropy doesn't apply to the universe, then we can have a talk. But until then, let's reserve the judgment for that.